This microphone is flat. This is my voice.
Great.
As I make the joke, I woke up at 14 one day, and this is how I sounded. So,
And he hasn't had to shave since.
nope, I can't grow a beard to save my life, Mark. Like I could go a week and I'd look the same.
I can't grow one because my wife won't let me. Okay, we can start anytime.
That's actually how we're
That's
starting
actually
the top of the episode.
This is what a real mustache looks like.
The end of 2024, beginning of 2025, we look back on the biggest stories, the biggest technologies, and the biggest mergers and acquisitions to come out of 24, and what's going to happen in 2025. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 698. So long, 2024. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and information from the AV space. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss that very news and information, first and foremost, Steph Beckett from Brave Pubs. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Mark Pescatore, who technically is a doctor, so Dr. Mark Pescatore from SCN. Welcome, sir.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, sir. And last but not least, the sage of the AV industry, Mr. Bradford Benn from Advisist. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for having me. It's your pleasure to be here.
It is indeed. So this one's a little different. We're going to take a look back. We're posting this first of the year, but we'll take a look back at 2024, maybe a little bit of future to the 2025. But what was the biggest things? What came out of 2024? What was the, oh my goodness, I don't believe what they just did? Obviously, we've got ISE 2024, Infocom. Steph and I were at Enterprise Connect together in Orlando. So a lot of stuff happening this year. So Steph, we'll start with you. What was the biggest story or stories of 2025?
I actually tried to prepare for this. So I went back and looked at...
As opposed to Bradford.
I went back and tried to look at the stories that we had put as breaking on our site from this year, and there were three. The first one was Resideo acquiring Snap One that they were going to for $1.4 billion. That was a big one. The other one was Panasonic selling most of its projector division. And then Acuity, of course, buying QSC and QSys for $1.2 billion. A lot of acquisitions that no one saw coming.
Yeah, those were absolutely huge.
And Panasonic selling most of its projector division. Who could have known that they were going to do that? I, for one, did not.
No. One of the things that came out of this, and I'm going to ask you this, ask everybody else this too, is Resideo and Snap One is, I'm not going to say it makes more sense than the rest of them, but made, at least currently sitting right here now, made more sense to me at the time. Right?
Yes. That 100% made sense, why they would buy Snap One. But the rest of it, I remember being like, huh? When these came in, I was like, did someone have a typo? When I say weird acquisitions and weird things being sold, that's exactly what I mean. So, I mean, were there other stories? I mean, I feel like at least the QSC one has been the one that is, of course, on the tip of everyone's tongue and what everyone is talking about right now. There have been a lot of whisperings. I think, Tim, we've talked about it before, that people on Reddit are like, is this Harman all over again? Just a lot of people not knowing what to think. And I felt really bad because I went to, not bad, but I went to Microsoft Ignite and I met with QSC while I was there. And they were like, what did you think of the news? And I kind of was like, I don't really know what to think yet. And I don't know if that was a good answer or not, but acquisitions can go so many different ways in our industry. They can leave all of the brands as is and pretty much everything continues business as usual, or things can start dissolving and folding into other things and things can get messy. So it felt really unfair for me to give an opinion yet, if that makes sense.
But here's the thing, I think it was a fair response because, and I've said this, I think at the week that it happened, nobody knows what's going to happen in 12 to 18 months.
Yeah.
Absolutely nobody. They just don't, right? Acuity, yes, they did due diligence and all that jazz, but they don't really know what they bought fully, right? They're going to spend the next 12 months doing, digging in, changing people's emails and stuff like that, right? At the end of 12 to 18 months, then, some folks will kind of know what's going on. But sitting right here, right now, I mean, I'm very happy for our friends over at QSC. You know, they've gotten into a much larger company, a much different industry, but don't nobody know yet, dude.
Yeah. No one knows yet. And I mean, of course, like we probably all knew that we were going to talk about this a lot in this episode because this was like the huge news that everyone has been talking about like the past at least 3 or 4 shows that I've gone to or however many since that has come out. Like that has been what has been on everyone's mind is like what is going to happen with this.
All right, Mark, what were some of the biggest stories of 2024 for you guys?
Thanks for inviting me over. I actually was rereading my Charles Dickens, and I have a bit here from A Christmas Carol, and I found a particularly poignant quote just for this occasion. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to look smart, guys. That's not really anything I'm going to do. I'm trying to look smart because
That was
there
wonderful.
was no big story in 2024 from a technology standpoint. Not from an acquisition standpoint. Steph is absolutely correct. There were some big stories in the acquisition world, but there was no sea change. There was no next big thing. It was all about the industry improving what we already have with regard to the user experience. And the other thing I would say was what was big. Of course, the big buzzword was, say it with me, AI. We all know that, but there's a lot of hype. There's a lot of potential. There are some use cases for automated cameras, maybe AI taking care of some busy work. But what's the killer app for Pro AV? I think people are still asking that question, and I honestly don't know when we're going to have the answer.
Yeah, that's fair. One of the things, I don't know how you all three of you, but I know Mark and Steph are going to ISC. I don't know how you two feel. I feel very, I am already shell shocked on how much AI I'm going to see on that show floor. It just already, because I can feel it, right? It's like the metaverse at CES from like 3 years ago. I can feel it coming. I can see it in the press releases, right, already. And it's going to be kind of our 3 jobs, and all the other fantastic reporters are going to be there, to sift through the marketing fluff that AI is going to be in all 8 of those halls, or however many they have now, because some of it's going to be genuine, and some of it's just not.
Some of it is literally just machine learning. Like we've had that forever.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so much worse than that. Sorry, I didn't mean to step on you, but this is one of my pet peeves.
No, step.
So I am going to talk about technology, but being the old person I am, as the elder statesman after Brock, I'll go with the cranky old dude. Things that have been around since the 90s and being done in analog are being said they're AI now. And I just kind of laugh. It's like, we have AI auto mixing. I know this guy called Dan Dugan. He's been around for a little while. Feedback suppression, echo cancellation, all these things, voice boost, so many of the things that were done analog now being AI kind of cracks me up. So I kind of liken it to what was happening for a while in the theme parks with, we're just going to do projection mapping. Replace the word projection mapping with magic. And all of a sudden it's the same thing. And Tim, your point about meta comes in perfectly in the metaverse, because much like Steph, and Mark, do you have more to go with before I start my rant?
No, rant away.
Much like Steph, she was surprised at Panasonic dropping projectors. Take a look at VR and how fast it's dropped. Now, obviously, I can talk about QSC and have lots of opinions about mergers and acquisitions, all that stuff. Been through it, lived through it. Harman and Samsung, Harman and SVSI, all those things. I can wax all sorts of poetic, because effective on tomorrow, the 19th, my 7 years of non-disclosure wears off. So someone start bribing me. But the bigger one is VR seriously has taken a dive, especially and I'm going to say the professional market. I don't just mean using it in theme parks and things like that, because that's still there. I can point out some amazing things like the Infinite that happened, but then quietly, PlayStation's VR headset, bye-bye. At
Microsoft.
Microsoft ended HoloLens and has 2 years left. Anyone seen an Apple VR headset recently? And to me, that's kind of where everything's going to be AR and VR. And I know there's a lot of very good things that can be done with it, especially in construction and architecture and engineering. The fact that I can go into Autodesk Revit, and just put up a building model, put my video, put my displays and stuff in, and let people walk through the space, huge. Using it to look at a spreadsheet ain't never going to happen. It's kind of like when people were talking about gesture control. There are things that aren't going to happen. And to me, that's what I'm seeing with VR and AR, with VR and AR just starting to go there. What metaverse? And I think the mergers and acquisitions, while huge news, misses some of the other trends that goes on of Panasonic not making projectors, Samsung changing which electronics they're making, Apple doing an update and then saying, well, Windows hasn't updated to work on the ARM processor. Those are the things that, while not as big of a news, have just as much impact, because where I'm sitting quietly, I'm looking at all these mergers going, something's not right here.
I typically do not comment on AVWeek. If you've been a listener for any length of time, you know
10
that.
years?
This is one of the episodes that I will. 13?
Okay.
Yeah,
13.
Yeah, 13.
He started when he was 12.
He still hasn't
started-
shaved since the first episode.
God love you. I have not shaved since the first episode. I will give you mergers and acquisitions, right? And we can talk about QSC, and we might talk about it when we talk about 2025. I don't know. Nobody knows what's going to happen with that. The other side of the industry on mergers and acquisitions, and that's the integrator side. Mark and SCN, every year they do a really great job of listing the top 50, right? It is one of my favorite episodes to do because we get to talk about the biggest and the baddest in the industry, right? Top of the heap is AVI SPL, has been for years, 1.6 billion, if I remember right. My comment here, though, and what I'm looking at in the news part about this, is that delta is still huge. And what I mean by that is you've got 1.6 billion up here, and you have 13 billion down here at number 50, right? And so what's happening in the industry side, right, is you've got the bigger folks getting bigger, and I think actually that's a good thing. And I'm not saying that because the company that I work for, our parent corporation, CTI, they do a number of acquisitions. I think we had 4 this year. But what's going to happen is folks are going to say, that's great. I don't want to work for $1 billion company, right? I don't want to work for a multi-$100 million company. You guys go ahead, knock yourself out, but I'm going to go over here and start my own thing, right? Same thing with QSC. Folks are going to, get through all the due diligence and everything that's happening at QSC, and they're going to go, that's great. Acuity, I'm sure you're a fine company. Not crazy about working for you. I'm going to take my smart acoustic brain, I'm going to take my smart AV brain, and I'm going to start something over here in my garage. I am a big fan, a big believer in competition. I'm a big believer in innovation. I'm a big believer in the entrepreneurial spirit. And I really, in kind of, that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to coming out of all these mergers and acquisitions is these bigger companies are getting bigger, but I'm really kind of excited to see what's going to happen with the smaller folks that are going to kind of be birthed out of these acquisitions.
I'm going to disagree with you a little bit here because, well, I have to.
That's a change. You disagree with me a lot.
Yeah, it's part of my job. The one thing that's important to keep in mind, and I'm not picking on Mark, this is just the way the world works, it's self-reported.
Oh, absolutely.
So there's a certain amount of people who are going to be like, we cracked $10 million. I want to shout it from the rooftops. There are other people who, because of how large they are and SEC filings, etc., can't not say it. And then there are peoples of me who are in the garage, making hundreds of dollars, not millions. I'm not going to tell Mark that, I'm making $20 a year. So I think those numbers are something, while important, it's self-reported. It's just like so
100%.
many of the other industry things. So I'm not saying doom and gloom. I just want that piece of, as I say, if you ask someone how often they give to charity, they're going to give you one number. If you look at their checkbook, it's a different number.
I don't know. We get it's all on the honor system because no one in their right mind is going to let me into their accounting department.
Oh, you can come visit mine, but I'm still looking for the $3 I lost.
But I mean, the problem is you've got people who honestly don't want to share that financial information, and that's okay. But luckily, thankfully, we have dozens of companies that are willing to share that information publicly, so we kind of get a snapshot of the industry.
And I fully agree and applaud the efforts. I'm not picking on you
Yeah.
until you get to the SEC filings. Don't worry, I'll be picking on Tim and his Bears and his Blues, but not going to pick on you, Mark, or you, Steph.
No, I was just going to say that our industry is so notoriously secretive about anything that has to do with money. So any little snapshot that we can get, I feel like we really latch onto, because otherwise we just have no idea. We always talk about the biggest brands in the industry. It's like, how do we know? We don't know. We just think we feel that they're the biggest brands in the industry. So yeah, I don't know. I think that our industry is just like that. It's just weird. But Tim, I did want to go back to something that you said, because I've probably been in this industry for a less amount of time than all of you. My first InfoComm was 2016, I think. But something that I have noticed in our industry is a bunch of acquisitions, and then shortly after, we start innovating again. A bunch of acquisitions, we start innovating again. So I don't think that this is necessarily doom and gloom or alarming that all of this is happening, but I think that we went through some periods of necessary innovation during early COVID, and now all the acquisitions are happening, and we're going to go through some pretty big innovations probably in the next couple of years.
So Steph actually leads us into a really good segue. What's happening in 2025? Mr. Pescatore, what's gonna be the one or two things? And I'm not asking you guys for longer than 6 to 12 months. I just, COVID taught me that. What's going to be like the biggest thing for 2025?
Well, to me, the biggest thing for 2025 is Laurel and Hardy. Now, I'm not talking about the comedy duo. I'm talking about the Blazing Saddles reference. Stay with me on this one, Tim. We got companies offering a Laurel and Hardy handshake to returning workers. That's right, people. I think return to office is going to be very big in 2025. I mean, let's be honest. President-elect Trump is not particularly keen on remote workers or telework in general. There are also a lot of companies that want their people back in the office. Why? Trust issues, control issues. But they also want to foster in-person relationships and collaboration. And let's be honest, they have a big investment in those facilities. So this is my roundabout way of saying the biggest story in 2025 can be summed up in one word: analytics. I think you're going to see organizations looking to maximize their real estate and their resources.
While I don't disagree with you, I think it's like on Sunday morning, you're going to play the national anthem before the Bears lose, but it's just another cycle that happens. Now, to kind of go from there, I see your return to work. I agree with that. But I think the next big thing in terms of technology is something that Steph and Mark both alluded to, of the lack of innovation, I think is going to change. I think
Hope so.
if we look at, I'll use QSIS as an example, and because I was raised by lawyers, these are my personal opinions, don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. Oh, wait up, I work for myself now. Yeah, these are the opinions of my company. The fact that QSYS and QSC have been branding separately for so long, I think shows there's some opportunities for branding and splitting to get core competencies, such as when Samsung purchased Harman, it wasn't for the pro audio division, I can tell you that. It was the $25 billion of contracts in automotive. So doing that branding is big. But I also think you're going to see more audio as a service through modularity. And I'm more thinking like the Microsoft Office 365 model or Salesforce or Google or all of these things I'm going to buy a DSP engine, and the DSP engine is going to cost me $2,000. Yay. Okay, so it's got this many in, this many out. It has 0 DSP. I don't need echo canceling because I'm doing a house of worship. I don't need crossovers because it's nothing but ceiling speakers, and that's a bad example. But I think we're going to see that as the next case for 2 reasons. The first one is by being able to generate revenue off of the new software gives you a way to pay for the new software. And with everything being digital, odds of building a new platform are pretty small. QSC going to 96 kilohertz finally to catch up, that would be big. But that's all software, no hardware. And that's kind of the way I look at it is I can go into my garage and for $30 and a couple of books from the library write a great algorithm or a great plugin. So I think that's the next big thing. But it also gives me, if I was a manufacturer still, but also as a consultant talking with people, I can shift money from CapEx to OpEx, or since I did use an abbreviation, capital expenses to operating expenses. It's the whole reason as a business owner, I'm using Office 365 instead of paying for a server and having all my software, etc. So I think that's going to be the next move because at some point, a soundbar is a soundbar, a microphone's a microphone. If you're in the office or out of the office, I'm not saying there isn't more to do with meetings. I just don't think there's more to do with hardware and meetings, or take your pick. So that's my prediction for 2025 as well. The Bears will draft a quarterback and it will be a bust.
Oh, don't do that to me. They will probably win enough just to not get a first round pick or first pick overall. Steph, 2025.
I definitely agree with everything that Bradford said. I think we're going to continue seeing those things that we pay for over a long period of time, but I think that's going to extend to more than the unified communication space. I am seeing manufacturers pushing all type of services and these extra things that come with their products so that you have someone to call at all hours of the day. Like all of these services that are now being billed as a subscription to those people who buy the products. I think a lot of people are going to start offering something like that. Snap One has started doing it. A few others, I see it, I feel it. I think like Peerless started offering something similar. So I think we're going to continue seeing a lot of that as like a new revenue stream. I think that we're going to continue seeing the cloud, things being put in the cloud, around the cloud, instead of like on-prem services. I think we're going to continue seeing a ton, but we've already been seeing that for the past few years. And finally, I think we're going to see a few more big acquisitions over the next year, because I don't think the big innovation is going to happen next year. I think it's probably going to happen in like 2026 is when something big is going to hit the industry again. I think next year it's going to be a lot of the same. A lot of AI, fake AI, marketed AI, AI this, AI that, chat GPT, blah, blah, blah. We're going to see a lot of that over the next year as well. And yeah, I think that's it.
Actually, that was one of mine. The prevalence of AI in the industry. The other part of my 2025 is the increasing importance, and we've kind of felt it. I mentioned that Steph and I were at Enterprise Connect this past year. I believe we're both going again in 2025. Microsoft and Zoom, and yes, even Google, even though I'm not a huge fan of Google Meet, those are going to create more and become more and more important, especially in the corporate space, but in UC, in conference rooms, and it's going to kind of extend out into the importance in the AV industry overall, because you've got Microsoft Teams certification and Zoom certification, right? They are driving what manufacturers are creating. Bradford's right when it comes to the hardware part, but those folks are still have to keep up with the software. So they have to stay on top of what it is Microsoft says they want. And if we're waiting on Microsoft to tell us what they want and not what the customers are saying they want, there to me is a bit of an issue, right? Nothing against our corporate overlords or our overlords in Washington, but yeah, that to me is going to be a problem. Now it may shake out, it may be fine, and Microsoft may be able to say yes, we know exactly what the customer wants. And I hope they do, because they are becoming more and more important. I think by the end of 2025, the integration side is certainly going to feel that, and the IT and the AV managers are going to go, yeah, we trust Microsoft because we're Teams house, or we trust Zoom because we're a Zoom house. So yeah, whatever they say, put that in, please. So that's my prediction.
I actually think you have a salient point there, Tim.
Good Lord.
Especially if you couple it with Mark's point of return to office. Yep. Because now it's going to be I'm in the office, you're in another office. There is no excuse for bad UC. And I think that's going to be the big opportunity. Forget the, meeting parity. If I'm in St. Louis and I can't connect to an office in Orlando and I supply both ends and they're my buildings, you best believe Microsoft's going to make that easy. Zoom's going to make that easy. Google's going to make it easy to eavesdrop on. But I think you are very salient when you put that together with Mark's point.
Well, and that goes together with Steph's point about not necessarily managed services, but keeping that lifeline to the customer, keeping that relationship open and active. She's absolutely right. That is not going away anytime soon.
Well, gang, thank you so much. Steph Beckett from rAVe Pubs and also from AV Buyers Club. How do people connect with you or rAVe?
You can connect with me. I am unfortunately active on Twitter still, so you can find me at Steph L. Beckett on there. You can find all of rAVe's coverage at ravepubs.com. AV Buyers Club is our technical end user facing publication, and that is at avbuyersclub.com. And if you want to see all of our upcoming ISC coverage, we're doing a lot of pre-coverage, during coverage, and post-coverage of the show. You can go to ravepubs.com/ISE.
All right, very good. Mr. Pescatore, thank you, sir. Good to see you as always. How do people connect with you or SCN?
For all things SCN, please go to avnetwork.com.
Bradford Benn, thank you, sir. How do people connect with you and Advisist?
You can find me on LinkedIn, advisist.com, and on Blue Sky and Mastodon because I X'd out Twitter. And, of course, I'm on LinkedIn at Bradford Benn and would love to connect with people.
For Tim Albright, don't follow me anywhere because Bradford's right. I will do nothing but complain about the Bears, especially on X or Blue Sky. I got a Blue Sky account. I guess
That's the new technology you have to keep up with. The cycle.
Yeah. I have an account. I'm lurking.
Right.
Now. I'm just
Me too. I'm on Blue Sky, but I don't think I've put anything out.
I don't put anything there yet.
I guess next year I'm going to predict that I'm going to be. Now that Chris Netto has put AV in the AM there, Blue Sky is going to be the next big place. And right after ISE, I'm going to be hosting Tim, this is how we do Blue Sky.
Oh, very good. I might watch that then. If you want to see me write about something other than AV, you can connect with me on LinkedIn if that interests you. If it doesn't, don't sweat it. No big deal. But go by the website if you would, please, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. This is posting first week of January. So I have no idea what Mitchell has posted recently, but go by and check out our other podcast, State of Control, EdTech, Women in AV, as well as a career AV career mastermind. Also, as Steph said, and Mark's company, SCN and AV Network, they will also have a page for ISC. We will as well. So you can check out our coverage of ISC as we all head to Barcelona the 4th through the 7th of January. But all that and more at AVNation.tv. That's AVNation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AV Nation.
This is AV Nation.